few weeks ago was the 8th anniversary of Skyrim, arguably the best modding community out of any game out there and definitely the best among the Bethesda games, and that was honestly a massive milestone for that game. One, because it actually is very telling how alive and active this modding scene is even after 8 years, which is absolutely insane in its own right. So for the week of that, I wanted to show you guys 8 mods that would probably make you reinstall Skyrim. 8 pretty cool new mod releases that are notable but came out over the past few months or in the past year. Obviously, that didn't happen. It's now several weeks later and I'm only showing you 5 mods because there are actually some pretty big ones, but hey, at least you know what I was going for initially. This is not really a comprehensive list. There's a ton of great mods to come out for Skyrim in 2019. I'll have a top 10 video coming out on that later this month, but after going through many of those, I picked out 5, some more recent releases you may have not heard of and some massive releases you may have just overlooked that I think will definitely get you interested in starting a new playthrough. If you enjoy the content, you can leave a like or subscribe. Again, another Skyrim video will be coming in a couple of weeks now, but outside of that, first and foremost, we have probably one of the most interesting and one of the most unique mods to come to Skyrim in a long time, that is Wintersun, Faiths of Skyrim. So this is actually a relatively simple mod. It's just going to add in religion and prayer/meditation into Skyrim. After downloading this and starting a game, whether it's an existing save or a new one, you'll be prompted to choose a faith. And there is quite a bit of variety among these. For each faith, they're going to have certain things that you'll have to do in order to advance yourself within that faith and certain things you have to stay away from to not decrease your standing with that faith. But also there'll be a prayer mechanic now, so you will have to pray to your appropriate deity every single day or potentially lose standing with them. So what rewards do you get for staying loyal to a certain god? Well, you're actually going to get in-game bonuses. These will vary from faith to faith and typically it'll have a certain style to them. Take for example the Redguard deity of the Hunding. Your standing with this deity will advance if you slay foes in open combat, especially when those enemies are stronger than you, but also as you advance your one-handed skill. If you're just a follower of this faith, as you stagger enemies, it'll reduce their armor rating for 5 seconds. You could actually go to the shrine of this faith and get a special blessing that does last for a certain amount of time, but even further, as you work your way up, eventually you may become a devotee to a faith, and that's when you reach a 100% follower rating. And this will be another bonus you do get for being a follower. For the Hunding, it's going to be an increased chance to resist stagger from attacks and bashes. With the Hunding deity, a lot of this is actually scaling based off your follower rating, so the higher it is, the more bonuses you will get, and really that is the crux of this mod. There are a variety of deities added in, there's going to be shrines for all of them, and you're going to want to pray to many of these to get some of these bonuses, some of which will be better for certain characters. But where this mod really takes it to the next level is with how many different deities are added in with this, as it'll actually add in over 50 new deities for you to pray to, and there is quite a bit of variation here. Depending on your starting race, you may only have access to certain deities off the bat. Some of them, like the Daedric Princes, you'll actually have to complete a quest to gain access to unless you're a Dark Elf. But going from one category to another, there's a lot of variation in what the deity expects of you, what you have to do to actually maintain your following status. Take Dibella, for example. In order to pray to this god, you actually have to pray outside and naked. For some of the Daedric Princes, what you have to do is much darker, such as stealing, breaking out of jail, and thievery, but you gain some pretty powerful devotee bonuses, and several of these will give you pretty epic abilities that you would not have access to otherwise. So overall, this is a very impactful mod for Skyrim. Just even from the start, when choosing a character, it gives you a lot more to consider. Which faith are you going to try and align with? It can give you serious bonuses for certain character builds, giving you a lot more damage, or just giving you a very powerful ability. But it also gives you new incentive to play in a certain way, adding in very interesting mechanics around that. It's one of those mods that feels very natural and fits into the game quite well and has a ton of work behind it. In my eyes, actually giving a lot more depth to some of the choices you can make throughout this game. Although, outside of that, and separately from the same mod author, we also do have the Miracle of Flight. Vehicles in Bethesda games have just never worked. It's always kind of jank or implemented in a poor way, but I gotta say, the Miracle of Flight is without a doubt the closest anyone has ever gotten to making this work well, and I would say it actually does make it work well. The mod itself itself is fairly simple. It's going to add in a new spell you can cast that will give you 3 different flying devices. Each of the 3 have different requirements for you to unlock them, and each will have a different strength and weakness and also one ability to go along with it. But really, the reason this mod stands out so much is it actually works and it's fairly practical as a fast travel alternative. You cast one of these and you could fly away and it doesn't feel super awkward or weird, and you could land and you could just walk off your flying carpet pretty naturally. I have yet to see a mod add in something like a flying machine or vehicle into a Bethesda game quite this well. This one just works. Some of the abilities you get with these are pretty powerful, with one of them actually having a weapon associated with it, but alternatively, if you enjoy Skyrim and enjoy the survival aspects of it, this is a great way to not fast travel. You just fly around on your magic carpet, and it actually kind of makes sense in the world of Skyrim. It's not all that outlandish. But then next up, we don't actually have a singular mod, but rather a mod list or a mod pack. In the past, I've discussed the Wabbajack tool on this channel. It basically is a mod list or mod pack tool. It'll auto-install a list of mods and even take it a bit further, doing some of the patching and overall making it pretty easy on the user. So you don't have to do a lot to get your game working with a lot of mods all at once. If you haven't kept up to date with this one, now it actually has a localized place where you can find all of the various mod packs. You could also see what mods are being installed as it does download everything. Although one big asterisk, this does require Nexus Premium to work. That's the tool overall, but specifically what I want to talk about today is Noise, which is a brand new mod pack to be released for Skyrim Special Edition. At its core, what Noise is going to do is give you all of the essential mods. The mods that bring bug fixes to Skyrim, that make the weathers or grounds look better, that make the world just appear a little bit more interesting or make certain mechanics have a bit more depth, but at the same time, it's still Skyrim. This mod pack is really meant to be a base. Most of what it does is improve the vanilla Skyrim experience, adding on top of that or improving some of those mechanics. But it gives you a great palette to start building on top of with more custom mods or things that do actually change up the game. This one's so appealing, especially to me, because outside of the time it took to download everything, the actual setup only took me like a half hour to get everything working, and then I was in a fully modded Skyrim and ready to start adding other mods like the Miracle of Flight or Wintersun on top of it. But one such mod that may be worth actually putting on top is Arcanum, a new age of magic. This is a massive magic mod that has been a work in progress for a very long time, released earlier this year and received a major update just in the past couple of months. Like many magic mods, this will add in new spells into Skyrim, but unlike many other magic mods, it actually isn't even comprehensive yet. New content has been added for the restoration and destruction trees, although the next few are just still in planned updates for the future. Yet, I would still categorize this as one of my favorite, or really just my favorite overall magic mod, even though it's incomplete. The main reason being, it is a much more interesting magic mod with quite a bit more depth than many others. So starting things off with the destruction tree. First and foremost, it'll add in a ton of new and unique looking spells that are very interesting to use. You'll find many new additions to the Fire, Frost, and Shock categories, but all 3 of those categories now do have a guiding principle behind them. Fire spells overall are meant to be rapid fire. You fire these often and deal a lot of damage that way, but also many of these have a double effect of actually healing you somewhat, so that's kind of divided into its own unique category. Separate from that, we have the Frost category, which is going to be really focused on crowd control and debuffs. As you use some of these various spells, you're not doing the most damage out of all 3 categories, but you'll be slowing enemies, reducing their health or armor, or actually just kind of freezing them in place with some of these spells, which can be very valuable and powerful. But then last but not least, we do have the Shock category, which, unlike the other 2, will deal mostly % health damage. These will be expensive and costly to use in more ways than you probably are thinking of, but without a doubt deal the most damage in one singular burst. And although it'll use a lot of magicka, they'll also do things like eat up part of your health in order to actually deal that damage. So almost a glass cannon of sorts. But the beauty of the destruction side of this mod, especially when you compare it to the vanilla options in the destruction category, is their synergies. Since now, for many of these spells, they have a bit more depth outside of just does damage, using them in culmination with one another or one after another can be very powerful and create a lot more interesting combat system. Although as I mentioned earlier, that's only one side of this. Outside of that, there also is the restoration tree, which receives a total overhaul. A ton of new spells are added on this side also, and although many mods will add in new ways for you to heal yourself or others, what this one will actually do is give it a quite significant twist. Many of the newly added restoration spells will actually now give significant bonuses to your allies, or even in some instances create new allies to help you in combat. This is a major theme you could find all throughout this. Even with some of them, you could take significant debuffs to your own character to have significant and actually quite greater buffs to allied characters. But separate from that, there's also interesting trade-offs where you could, for example, actually restore health on enemies, but all the while actually decrease their armor significantly, or use things like plague effects that will explode to infect others. And many spells in this category will actually receive damage bonuses if enemies are being healed from another source. So it creates a very interesting dynamic where actually tying together certain spells is their most optimal usage. So among all those various spells for the destruction and restoration tree, there is a lot. Many spells ranging all the way from adept to expert, naturally integrated into the leveled list, so you'll find them just by playing Skyrim naturally. But towards the latter part of the game, you'll actually get access to reformulated spells and even spell crafting. This is, to me at least, one of the most interesting parts of this mod, where in essence you'll be able to actually combine various spells to form a new reformulated spell that will have numerous effects all at once. Now at times it is as simple as taking 3 spells and combining them into one. Other times it's actually having unique or different synergies or something totally different but actually using the base of other spells. The vast majority of this category is meant for late game usage, but it does make becoming a mage in Skyrim a lot more interesting because these are just fun to use. It creates a really nice end or late game goal, and it does make you quite a bit more powerful. All in all, the spells this add in are numerous, but also have a lot of depth and interest to them. And of course, as an aside from all of that, as you've been seeing in the background, many of these spells also have quite unique or interesting visuals to go along with them, definitely making them stand out or look different from the vanilla options. So that definitely builds on and makes the magic system in Skyrim quite a bit more interesting. But last but not least, we also have Citizens of Tamriel. This is a relatively simple mod. What it's going to do is add in a variety of new NPCs all throughout Skyrim that are just interesting. This mod is going to add in over 20 new NPCs and over 2,000 lines of new dialogue that is meant to actually give some characters you encounter in Skyrim a lot more depth or personality. When you encounter a character with this mod, you'll know it because it just takes a different turn of events. As you're talking to them, they seem more unique. It's not just another generic character that you talk to in order to get the quest or quest requirement. This adds in characters that you want to talk to just to find out more about them. It makes Skyrim feel more lived in, more interesting. I would say the voice acting in this is also top tier and top notch.
Your insults are almost as amusing as you are. You may remain in these halls if you wish. I certainly can't be bothered to stop you. Petty theft or rearranging the items on shelves won't prevent the coming war, but you common folk do love taking the little victories where you can.
The characters honestly don't have a ton of purpose outside of just making Skyrim's world a bit more interesting. In the future, there's plans to adapt some of these into followers, as well as add in new characters, and also, without a doubt, one of my favorite parts, these characters are reactive. They'll take notice of when you complete certain quests, join certain factions, or have a trait about you.
Each moment is like a death knell, slipping away from you one after the other. You don't remember? How convenient. But I do. I remember. Even death cannot soothe my pain.
So you might have different interactions on different characters or even just from repeat visits. But either way, yeah, those are 5 mods that I think are worth reinstalling or starting a new playthrough in Skyrim for. They're truly next level content, things making this game significantly more fun to play or significantly more interesting. Hopefully you guys found this video informative or just helpful. I'll have links to everything I talk about down below in the description. But with all that being said, I thank you again for watching and I hope to see you all next time. Later.